Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call to order the Arvada City Council meeting for Monday, February 3rd, 2025. I will call upon Councilmember Rupert for a moment of silence and the pledge.
All right, please join me for a moment of silent reflection. And the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Rush, if you'll do the roll call.
Mayor Simpson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon?
Here.
Councilmember Ambrose?
Here.
Councilmember Davis?
Here.
Councilmember Pfeiffer?
Here.
Councilmember Marriott?
Here.
Councilmember Rupert?
Here.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, those stand approved. And we have public comment this evening, so this is our 3-minute limit. I will request that everybody come. I request that everybody keep your comments directed to council as opposed to those who may or may not be in chambers. This is the 3-minute limit. We will have 5-minute at the end. And with that, and I also request that everyone give their name and address for the public record as you come up. First, we'll start with Ann Katzberg.
Good evening, Council. I'm Ann Katzberg. My address is 15062 West 69th Place, Arvada. So tonight I want to talk to you about us. What is a country? The way its people govern itself. America exists because its people elect those who make and execute laws. Deportations are a spectacle to Americans against one another, to make us afraid and to get us to see pain in camps as normal. Deportations also create busy work for law enforcement. Who are we as a country, a county, a city? What can you do to protect our citizens, tax-paying members of our community? Sometimes self-government means elections. Sometimes it means recognizing the deeper dignity and meaning of what it means to be a people. As a council navigating Arvada's direction, I want to encourage you to keep on the forefront of your agenda safety for our immigrants, and making sure that you continue to move forward on a navigation center, ensuring shelter and permanent housing for our unhoused neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Len Clements.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Lynn Clemens. I live at 6202 Kilmer Loop, Unit 102 in Arvada, and I'm the president of the Westwood Villas HOA. I have a few issues tonight that I would like to speak to. One is Infinity has been putting a lot of fiber optic in the neighborhood along West 63rd Avenue, and they dug up a number of areas of my grass right along this public street. This was done after the sprinklers were turned off. And my question to you and to the city is, if my sprinklers are affected in the spring when they get turned on, who do I contact in order to get that fixed? So that's my first issue. Secondly, Westwood Villa, in the Westwood Villa geotechnical engineering report, when Westwood Villas was being proposed, there's a mention of a drainage pipe cross-cutting our property. And I actually did send this to Rob Smontana and to the Farmers Highline Canal. Farmers Highline Canal did not think this was part of their drainage system. I'm actually looking for some information about this drainage pipe. This drainage pipe actually cuts right into the middle of my property, and I'm concerned about who's maintaining the pipe, how did the pipe get there, and exactly where it is. So I'm looking for some diagrams or whatever from the city maintaining this drainage pipe. And it was in the Westwood Villa Geotechnical Engineering Report, probably back around 2005 or 6. And then third, in the Farmers Highline Canal move on 5950 McIntyre, the canal is actually being moved and straightened out, and it's being concrete lined. Can the city request a hydrology report that would address the increased rate of flow and the amount of water that is going to come downstream from the concreted canal? Currently, the canal is an earthen canal, and there is a Westwood Villas building and a number of homes from the lakes of Westwood that border this canal. And downstream, we have earthen walls to this canal. What happens if we have a 100-year flood? Will the earthen banks be affected, and will they erode next to our properties here in Arvada? Where are the details from the canal move and the hydrology part of what's going to change from the concreted canals? And will the city ask for a report on this issue? And I really hope they will and make the report public, because we are very concerned about this. Thank you.
Thank you. A member of the city team will be back with you on those particular requests. Next, we have Christian Chair.
Hi, thank you for allowing us to come here tonight. My name is Kristen Scher, 7509 Grandview Avenue in Old Town, Arvada. My husband and I own and operate Silver Vines Winery in Old Town. We're located on Grandview, directly across from the light rail station, and most of my staff are female Old Town residents and between the ages of 30 and 50 years old. I want to start off by giving you some feedback from my staff when I told them I was coming here tonight. One employee says, "I've had numerous occurrences with not only myself feeling unsafe, but my friends and customers at the winery feeling unsafe. We're afraid to come to Old Town at night. At night, people hang out in the alley in the back of the winery, sleep in the trash dumpsters, and in front there are people smoking weed and doing drugs, giving me no choice for a safe exit. In October and November, there was a large gang presence near the light rail, claiming it was their territory and selling drugs. She lives in Old Town, works in Old Town, and spends a lot of her time and dollars there, and this is a very important issue to her. That employee and her husband have been customers of our business for 13 years, and she's worked for us for the last 4. She has told me that she's never seen it this bad or felt more unsafe. Another employee who has been with us only a couple of months said the following: "I've had several incidents where people come in to use the bathroom, and they're in there for 20 to 30 minutes or more. They use the bathroom to shower, they do drugs in there, they throw up all over the place, and sometimes fall asleep. And she doesn't feel comfortable confronting them. I've had other staff that have had their physical safety threatened, and I will hire and fully train staff, and they quit within a week or 2 of working shifts because they don't feel comfortable walking to their cars at night. In the early morning hours, my husband He's been confronted and yelled at on multiple occasions when he's just trying to deliver products to our business. We've been fortunate enough to not have been broken into, but I have daily anxiety that we will be next, something that I've never felt until the last few months. I always tell my staff to call police whenever anything happens, but they don't always feel comfortable doing so. And while I have deep empathy for the individuals who are struggling, from my observations, the people that are creating the most problems in Old Town are not the ones that are looking for help or the ones taking advantage of those resources. It'd be easy to say that this is a homelessness issue, but it's not. This is an issue of community safety. Old Town means a lot to me and my family. We've built our business, a community, and a family here. We've built our entire lives here. And we don't want to feel like we're being forced out because no one's offering solutions or taking actions. So I'm here tonight to ask you to give us some solutions and some guidance, and real solutions that will make immediate impacts, not something 10 years down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mike Huggins.
Hello, Mike Huggins with the Arvada Tavern, 5707 Old Wadsworth Boulevard. Really just echo a lot of what I just heard there. This is my first time here at a council to address this issue. Just give a little history. It's my 13th year in business in Old Town, and post-pandemic, we've never, achieved the same numbers that we had pre-pandemic. And there's, other reasons other than what was just discussed here. But I'm starting to come to realization that this is a big hindrance to Old Town and other businesses. I have 3 other hospitality businesses in various parts of Metro Denver, and now I have 2 of which I could use as like a Mark Twain to kind of gauge that this type of environment is an actual effect on our business compared to the other 2 in the other neighborhoods. I have a new business in South Broadway, and that has almost identical situation that we're dealing with in Old Town in a lot of ways. So I'm just coming here to kind of voice my observations of that. And for the last few years, I've been very optimistic, thinking this will just go away, and it hasn't, and it seems to be increasing. And not here to ask what's being done currently, but like to start being more proactive with you all and with the other business community here to try to find some more solutions for this. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mike Papatanakis.
Hi, thank you for hearing us today. My name is Mike Papantanakis, and I'm also on Grandview, 7425 Grandview, at the RE/MAX Alliance office. And I want to again echo some of what we're hearing here from some of these other people. We're there in that office on a daily basis, and there have been many incidences where people don't feel safe, where we've actually locked the door because of people that are out on the square or doing some things that we don't feel comfortable with. We have a little parking space from the alleyway behind our building, and we have a security camera there, and we actually have security camera recordings of people defecating right against our fence. I use the parking garage, and I have more than once seen people in the stairway doing various things. Some of them, one lady was undressing and changing clothes. I've seen people, sitting, looks like they're doing drugs. I don't know if they are or not, but that's what it looks like. The point is we have people that want to come to Old Town to do some things. We have a lot of great restaurants, shops, and things to do, and festivals. We have all these festivals that we love, and people don't even want to come to Old Town anymore because it just continues to get worse and worse. So I don't know what the answer is, but I do know this: Old Town is a beautiful part of Arvada, and we're losing it, and you're going to see businesses leave, and we don't really want to see that happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Phil Shell.
Good evening. I'm Phil Shell, one of the broker owners of the RE/MAX Alliance office on Grandview, and I would echo a lot of the things that have already been said rather than going through all that a lot. We are one of the largest supporters of the Business Improvement District, and as a result, we are heavily involved in nearly every festival and every event that happens in Old Town. And part of our business model is to try to get the community involved. So our brokers will reach out to our clients and to our database and say, come on down, let's come enjoy the festival. And it breaks my heart every time I hear somebody say, I'm not taking my kids down into Old Town. Sorry, that's not going to happen. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar, but in the 70s, there was a developer that came to the city council asking to raise Old Town and build a mall, because at that time, Old Town was kind of pretty dilapidated, and the city council turned him down. It was very controversial, and that developer went up to 88th and Sheridan and built the Westminster Mall. Today, they've torn that down, and they're building downtown Westminster, so yay. But we have something very special in Old Town, and while I commend the people that are trying to help the homeless population, they're doing the things that they feel are the right things to do, but I don't know that they are really understanding the impact of the thousands of other people that they're having an impact on as a result of having these things occur in Old Town. So I would encourage the council to try to find some solutions to this, and let's not allow Old Town to get back to what it was in the 70s and 80s. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Alicia Gates.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Gates. I am with Rama Home at 5642 Old Wadsworth. Rama has been in Old Town for over 30 years. I've been with the company for over 15 years. I'm here to express concerns regarding the growing impact of homelessness on the atmosphere of Old Town and how it has changed the day-to-day experiences for the residents, visitors, and businesses. I have always felt that Old Town Arvada represents a respected, vibrant community, but this recent change has shifted its character. Public drug use, violent disturbances, trash, loitering, vandalism, hazardous waste, feces have made it nearly impossible to maintain a positive and safe environment. I personally have had to call PD numerous times on trespassers, visible public drug use right in Old Town sidewalks. I have had to remove human waste several times, repair, replace, vandalize electrical phone boxes, lights, planters, and clean up trash daily. They loiter, they panhandle patrons, and become aggressive. Unfortunately, they come into my store, making it, as expected, extremely uncomfortable for customers, employees, and myself to delicately navigate removal of fear of confrontation and retaliation. We've asked a man to leave due to screaming profanities in my business, and when he left, he spit on one of my employees. I watched as one threw rocks while families were walking down the sidewalks, and one yelling and cussing aggressively at a poor little grandma. I will no longer take my children to the square, the library, or McAvoy Park. I've witnessed homeless bathing in the fountains in the square and daily altercations. I will no longer park in the parking garage, and when arriving or leaving after dark, I now carry mace, which I never thought would be necessary. Many patrons, tourists, and employees and business owners have expressed similar concerns, which we all know directly affects foot traffic and revenue, as well as the added strain on our fire, rescue, and law enforcement. I recognize homelessness is a multifaceted issue. Of course, there will always be a need for resources, programs, and shelters, but to maintain balance and safety, those need to be relocated out of the heart of Old Town. I urge the council to collaborate and consider solutions that return our Old Town to a safe, clean, and welcoming environment. Thank you for your attention to this crucial matter and the continued efforts to support both the unhoused while also the vitality and growth of our beloved Old Town. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alyssa Rossi.
Hello, good evening. My name is Alyssa Rossi, and my business is at 5626 Old Wadsworth Boulevard in Old Town. I'm the owner of Adeluna Boutique, and we have proudly been serving the community since 2019. As both a business owner and resident of Arvada, I've had the privilege of watching our town grow and evolve. While much of this growth has been positive, as with any change, there are challenges that come with it. Let me start by saying that I've always had a deep compassion for the homeless, not just in our community, but across the state, nation, and world. This is a complex issue that affects every community, large and small. However, as a business owner, my ongoing concern is ensuring the safety and comfort of my customers, staff, and neighbors. Old Town Arvada continues to grow in its reputation as a welcoming gateway to Denver as well as to the mountains, drawing people from all over to explore its vibrant shops, restaurants, and unique Colorado charm. In order to maintain this reputation and ensure that our community remains a safe place for residents and visitors, we have a responsibility to address the safety concerns that are increasingly becoming an issue. Over the past few months, I've heard growing concerns from other business owners, employees, residents, visitors about the impact of homelessness in our area. These concerns, again, like we've kind of heard, include incidences of harassment on patios, thefts, break-ins, and drug use in public spaces, including but not limited to bathrooms, alleys, sidewalks in plain sight. As a small business owner, these situations leave me wondering, when will my business be targeted next? I've even had customers and locals express their hesitance to come visit or to continue visit Old Town because of these issues. And while it's painful to hear, I can understand their concerns. My own staff and I have had personal experiences with these challenges and truly believe it's starting to affect the appeal of Old Town. I find myself contemplating the possibility that I may have to consider relocating my business, and honestly, I don't want to have to make that choice. I've built a deep connection to this community, and I'm passionate about being a part of the Old Town experience. I firmly believe we can find solutions to this problem that will allow us to continue showing compassion for the homeless population while also restoring the safety and livability that both residents and businesses desire and deserve. Thank you for your time and attention. I welcome anyone on council to connect with me regarding ideas and possible solutions that I have to ensure that Old Town remains a safe, vibrant, and welcoming place for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Joe Hengstler.
Joe Hanksler, 6060 Cody Street, Arvada, Colorado. Sorry, excuse me. I honestly wish that I did not have to stand here before you tonight and deliver public comment on what is obviously a difficult and multifaceted issue that communities are dealing with across the metro area. However, as Executive Director of the Old Town Arvada Business Improvement District, I thought it was important to support our businesses as they express their concerns for their businesses, their employees, their families, and our community. Being a small business owner is not for the faint at heart. It's hard, and every day is filled with challenges, whether that be inflation, staffing, navigating supply chains. The list can go on, and it does. These are individuals who have put their livelihoods on the line to invest in themselves and their dreams, and by extension, our community. They are such a big part of what makes Old Town such a special place, and honestly, I stand in awe of them when I hear the stories of the sacrifices they make. For example, foregoing their own pay so that they can take care of their employees. If you haven't figured it out by now, I'm a big fan of them. Our small business owners are the best part of my job. I mean, going around meeting them, knowing why they do what they do, it's amazing. So this may be why I take it personally when I hear stories of break-ins, of staff quitting due to feeling unsafe, and generally how their businesses have been affected by issues of homelessness. Moreover, it breaks my heart when I hear someone say, you know, Joe, we used to love going to Old Town, but it's getting harder and harder with all the homeless issues, or some variation of that. Now, up to this point, I've talked about homelessness and homeless issues without putting any parameters or definitions to these terms. And we understand that homelessness is a complex socioeconomic issue that takes many forms. And as such, there is no silver bullet to curing or fixing homelessness. I am personally appreciative of the city's approach that looks toward affordable housing, increasing partnerships with nonprofits, and perhaps one day the creation of a navigation center. Yet while pursuing these strategies, it is absolutely worthwhile that it be accompanied by strategies that can also address the issues of crime and safety, whose impact is being felt immediately. It should not be an unreasonable expectation that a family can walk through the square to the library without having to go by open drug use and dealing, without the cracking of bullwhips, or at worst, actual physical violence. It should not be an unreasonable expectation that a patron can come to Old Town without being verbally accosted. And it should not be an unreasonable expectation for a business owner to not have to add the cleaning of needles, drug paraphernalia, and human feces to their daily task. The Old Town Arvada BID has been and will continue to be appreciative of the support and relationships we have with City Council, City staff, Arvada PD, and our many other partners, and I truly mean that. But at the same time, the businesses have done everything that's been asked of them regarding additional cameras and lighting, SEPTED, calling in incidences, signing up for the 4P program, and more.
Mr. Hengstler, I apologize, your time's expired. I'll give you a second to wrap your thought.
You know what? At the end of the day, I think you guys know that this is an issue, and I appreciate your time and consideration in this for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Frank Farinaro.
Hello, my name is Frank Ferranero, and I'm the manager of Penzi Spices at 7511 Grandview Avenue in Old Town Arvada. I've been the manager there for, this is now my 5th year there. I've been a patron of Old Town Arvada Plaza since I was a teenager in the early 2000s, and I'm originally from Colorado Springs, but I had the extreme privilege of being able to come up to Old Town Arvada in my early teens, because coming from Colorado Springs, I went onto the internet and I was trying to find community. And I was trying to find community in the forms of educational and artistic opportunities in terms of exchanging different forms of ethnic dance, music, cuisine, diplomacy, and educational opportunities in those aspects. Through just doing simple Google searches, I found myself coming to different community artistic events in Old Town Arvada from the early 2000s. And that very much informed me as a young teenager who I wanted to be when I became an adult. And now that I am an adult, half a lifetime later, I could not tell you how happy I am to be here. And half a decade in, and I'm now a part of what happens here in Old Town Arvada Plaza. The diversity, the equity, the inclusion is so much of what brought me here as a patron. I could not be more honored to be more here now as somebody who does get to facilitate and participate in the economy and the exchange that happens here. Now, as many of the other people have expressed their sentiment in issues that have involved whether it's been homelessness or any type of food insecurity, criminal behavior, but big issues, infrastructure changes. With these infrastructures changes that have happened, so much has happened in a small amount of time. The introduction of the light rail of the train here, the changes with the street closures and how certain businesses were able to expand their footprint. And the fact that there's been any changes in zoning for what's the entertainment district. Police departments have different zones of focus, different forms of jurisdiction. That includes the RTD Police Department. In this post-COVID world, there have been so many changes with what is still applicable, what is no longer admissible, and as so much of that has evolved, a lot of the business proprietors and workers like myself have been left in a bit of a gray area in terms of who do we voice our certain concerns to, if there are certain resources that we do have available to us, who do we express a concern or a want of taking advantage of those resources. As things change by different time limits, different jurisdictions, we would like to be more aware of that. But with some of us businesses, we are aware of some of the issues that are happening here in Old Town, and we do try to be part of the solution. With my business in particular, we have partnered with The Rising, with Community Food Bank, with Habitat for Humanity, and as well as the Arvada Veggie Van, and with trying to partner with them and trying to create not only food security, but also affordable housing in the area. So even if some of our businesses do have the resources in which we can try to help the community and be part of these solutions and not just leave it on the government bodies, it would definitely help us help the community if we had more of an open line of communication and understanding which time limits, which jurisdictions, which protocols, and which government bodies are in charge of implementing certain solutions within these time frames. And that's something that I would like to encourage more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Debbie Pearson.
Good evening. Lower it down. There we go. Okay. Debbie Pearson, 5723 and 5709 Yukon Street. I am also speaking on the same topic. However, I would not classify it as homelessness because I think the community has done a great job in addressing those who are in need. The problem that we have is a small percentage that is causing 99% of the problem. Some of us refer to them as the nuisance homeless. They don't want to be housed. They refuse to take advantage of things that are being offered to them. Their sole desire is to take their drugs, be obnoxious, make as much havoc as they can, take whatever they want. And so the thing is, how do we come together as a community to address this particular group of people? It's not just a homeless issue. A lot of the homeless is being taken care of in different ways. We're so grateful for the core team, but even it's moving further and further west. The alley between Yukon and Yarrow, we have stuff going on there all the time now as well. I've been there. My business and my residence has been in Old Town for over 30 years. there's a lot of us that have put a lot of effort into the district and love this district. We do not want to see it go downhill. We want to make sure that people love coming here for years to come. So we're just asking for a little guidance, a little help, maybe, you know, get a group together, but figure out the problem, because that, when PD's not allowed to take anybody, since we don't have a jail, and we're not allowed to get these people off the streets in any way, shape, or form, that's got to change. It's got to change now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Cinder Trudell and Bonnie Stratt.
Hi, thank you for your time tonight. I am Cinda Trudell, 7311 Grandview Avenue, Arvada. And this is my mother, Bonnie. My parents own Breadwinners, the building, and then my husband and I run the business along with our son. We've been in Old Town for 24 years. And during that time, we've seen a lot of changes. And the changes that worry me the most are the changes that I've seen over the last few years. Our building has been broken into. We've had multiple vandalism situations happen. Pretty much nightly, we have people sleeping on our patio. They turn on the heaters. And when we try to make it to where they can't get in, then they will cut the patio curtains, which has ended up costing me several $1,000s to have fixed. We have drug paraphernalia that's left behind. We have people that come in and eat, and then they don't have money to pay. And so that's happened several times. We've had homeless come in and steal a purse, which was one of our hostess's purses. It had her keys in it. We've had wallets taken out of the hostess stand. They take down the no trespassing signs. They fold them in half so that you can't see that it says no trespassing, or they take them off altogether. The dumpsters, I feel like we have to paint every couple of months because there's so much graffiti on them. It's not the Old Town that I grew up in. I've been in Arvada my whole life. And we used to come down, and that's when it was all antique shops. I love everything that's down there now, all the new shops. But I do fear that people coming down, especially that are out of town or from other cities, they're saying that it's dirty down there. It's not safe. And we have 6 grandkids. I would not let them play at that park. I would not let them walk around. And it's not the Old Town that I knew, and it's not the Old Town that I think that we want to see. And I do believe in community. I do believe in helping these people, but we do need to work together on solutions. And if that means that we have to meet regularly to find out what we can do, then just let everybody know. I think everybody's on the same page that we want the Old Town that we used to have. And we appreciate the businesses moving in. We appreciate everything that the police try to do. And it's an epidemic that I think is affecting a lot of cities. But, I appreciate your time tonight and just wanted to let everybody know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I just add one word?
Please.
We purchased the building in 1999, and at that time, we felt hopeful. We are from Arvada. We felt very hopeful, and we heard people talk about it being a very unique, beautiful Old Town Arvada. I am now hearing comments of people saying this area will become the blighted area that we used to come to city council meetings to try and prevent from other areas. That's sad to go from hope to blighted. And I do believe it's a very, very serious problem for Arvada. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Joyce Richardson.
Good evening, Mayor Simpson and City Council members. I'm Joyce Richardson, and I've lived at 6521 West 69th Way in Arvada for 36 years. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of our vulnerable residents of Arvada. To say that I was dismayed by the vote last week to sell the ECA building and begin all over again to find a site for a navigation center and a 24-hour shelter is an understatement. There are people in this room who have worked on this since 2017, and to kick the issue down the road again is really disheartening. The city must now offer all the help it can to the Rising, since there's nothing else for our unhoused residents. It's interesting to me to hear the businesses talking this evening. I guess I wonder where they were from September 17th on. But anyway, in light of decisions taken this week in DC, it's also imperative that the city of Arvada make a statement of welcome and protection of our immigrant population. People who are fleeing brutal regimes deserve to seek safety and opportunity. We can and should be a city that offers this opportunity. From what I can research, the oft-repeated statement that they should gain citizenship legally rings hollow when thousands did follow the rules and the rug was yanked this week. As far as I can tell, there is no legal path to citizenship. As far as I can tell, there's no legal path to citizenship unless you're married to an American citizen, and even these people are being deported. I urge our city leaders to issue a statement welcoming and supporting our residents, our immigrant residents. It's time to be brave. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mike Schweitzer.
Hello, Council, Mayor Simpson. I first want to applaud everybody who's spoken tonight about the issues in Old Town Arvada. I think something has to be done about that, and you've obviously heard numerous testimony about that, and I asked this council to do something about it. I'm here to talk about a different subject. In late November, early December, we learned that Planning Commission was going to be cutting off remote access, the Zoom access for remote participants. I came to City Council in December and asked that you guide Planning Commission to reinstate remote access. And then I learned in early January that not only did you not do that, but City Council has with the sign you've got up at the signing table out in the hallway, is also going to be cutting off Zoom meeting and remote access for participants starting March 3rd. You'll find later that there was another board member of our Ralston Valley Coalition is going to be joining the meeting remotely because he can't make it here tonight. I'm asking City Council to reverse that decision. I don't know why that has to happen. It's a valuable asset to not only the citizens of Arvada, but to the information that's given to the City Council and to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carol Napier.
Good evening. My name is Carol Napier. I reside at 11231 West 54th Avenue. February is Black History Month. Black History Month is important because it gives us space to talk about and to face the atrocities that this country visited upon Black people for hundreds of years and continues to do. It's also a time to give space to learn about and celebrate the wonderful Black Americans who have contributed to every aspect of our society. And to that end, I brought a prop. Probably the only one who's ever done that. This is Ida B. Wells, and I hope that you know about Ida B. Wells. She was born into slavery in Mississippi, and later, shortly thereafter, slavery was abolished. Ida became an amazing journalist, and one of the things that she did was that she brought to light the horrors of lynching. She pushed for federal legislation to outlaw lynching that was finally passed in 2020. Lynching was a means of killing Black people, but it was also a means of raining down terror on Black communities. And why is that relevant today? It's because we have a federal government now that's raining terror down on immigrant communities. My daughter teaches, and she tells me stories of other teachers saying, children aren't showing up for school because their parents are worried that if they walk them to the bus stop, that ICE will snatch them away from their children. And so today, as a resident of Arvada, as somebody who taught 4- and 5-year-old Sunday school for 20 years, I am asking you to do everything in your power to protect the immigrant children. They are the most vulnerable among us. They do not have a voice in policy. They cannot fight back against the hate and the meanness that is tearing their lives apart. And so what I ask you to do is to do what moral people do. Look at those children as your own children. Think about where in the day and the night they become vulnerable, and put protections in place to make sure that they are not separated from their parents, their home, the place that they feel safe. You have to hold the line. We as a community have to hold the line. This is the United States of America. This is where everybody is supposed to be welcome and safe. And the most unwelcome and the least safe right now are the immigrant children. And so I ask you to do everything in your power to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, we have Pat Malone.
Hello, Mayor and Council members. My name is Pat Malone. I live at 6273 Kilmer Loop in West Arvada. And I absolutely agree about the community safety for the business owners and support that, but also for our immigrants. And we keep showing up at City Council because if something is being done in support to protect our Arvada immigrants, I'm just not aware that there is. I truly believe that the city needs to proactively be doing work to support its residents who are being targeted right now. For example, when someone calls any department in the city asking questions related to their status as immigrants, you could send them Know Your Rights documents by email or mail. And if they have computer access, refer them to the FAQs that are on the police department's website. The recent Arvada report could have had valuable information for residents who are being targeted right now. Coordinating Know Your Rights trainings could be happening. There are things that can be done. I give kudos to Council members Ambrose, Davis, and Mormon for having the courage to put their names to the Edgewater Collective's statement of support for our immigrants, for Jefferson County immigrants. And also to Public Information Officer Chase Amos for responding to my questions whether police were recently made aware of immigration policies, and they were, and whether there are disciplinary steps in place for anyone who may choose to go rogue. There are, and he directed me on how to request these policies. But I'm asking the collective City Council to do better, to share any work that's being done so I can stop asking you for work, for what you're doing, because I just don't know. But we can't ignore what's happening. It's not an option. On another topic, I'm urging you to work with urgency. Now that the early college building will be sold instead of developed as a navigation center, please collaborate with your regional partners to educate us as to why a navigation center is not something to fear, and then act quickly to find a location for a navigation center so it can be operational before another winter rolls around. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to give public comment? Please come down.
Hi, I'm Becca. I'm a yoga teacher over at Gray Yoga. This is Leela at 6070 Cody Street. Recently, when I was teaching a class, I open on Monday mornings, and recently when I was teaching a class about halfway through, thank you, Leela, about halfway through class, I noticed a homeless man just kind of lingering in front of the studio. He was wearing a mask, and he had a big bag with him. And it got to a point I felt unsafe, so I didn't want to freak out our students. I got them in child's pose. Looking back, I would have handled it differently. But I texted the owner, who didn't respond as quick as I needed, and asked her to call the cops. So I texted my husband, and he called the cops. And it turned out the guy was then shaking the door handle, and he was screaming, and he was trying to enter the building. Luckily, the door was locked. The police came, and then it turned out his bag was a bag full of weapons. And he was also banned from Old Town. He shouldn't have even been here in the first place. So even if someone gets banned, that's not really doing anything, because he still made his way here. Yeah, and for a split second, I was scared that I wouldn't be able to get back to Miss Leela. So as a mom and as a teacher and someone in the community, something needs to happen. And I take Leela to story time all the time at the library, and we love it so much. But it's really hard to walk through and by the people sometimes right outside the library because of everything that's going on. We want her to love everyone, of course, but when it comes to our safety, especially her safety, something really needs to be changed and done.
Thank you. Please come down.
Mindy Moore, 11570 West 70th Place. The stories that we're hearing from the business owners in Old Town are heart-wrenching, and they do not deserve what they're having to face in Old Town. An illegal activity should not be condoned, but I do want to say, as someone who has volunteered at Mission Arvada since about 2019, what you are seeing with a lot of those behaviors are a small population. They serve and see over 1,000 people who are housing insecure or unhoused a year. And that's not 1,000 people you're seeing in Old Town. You're seeing a small fraction. And the people that are terrorizing our businesses typically are banned from Mission Arvada. They're not even allowed in if they've committed felonies, if they are drug users, if they're harassing people, they are banned. Those are not the people that Mission Arvada is helping. The other issue that council needs to think about as they move forward, and I pray you do with the navigation center, is that Mission Arvada is only open 9 to 1 a.m. Monday through Friday. They're not open on weekends. They're not open at nights. So the people that they are helping who have no shelter have nowhere to go. They're hanging around, yes, in some cases, because Mission Arvada is not a 24/7 facility, which is what our city needs in ideally a better location. And please, you know that the Arvada Library will be remodeled this year. It'll be closed, so our unhoused people will lose further shelter, a place to use the restroom, a place to wash. The problem is only going to get worse this year. You need to move quickly, I beg you, to find a location, work with your regional partners. Money is available from Jefferson County. Do community outreach in parallel with finalizing your homelessness strategy to help both the business owners and your residents for many, many reasons that you've heard tonight and from others like us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to speak this evening? Seeing none, Ms. Rush, I believe we have one on Zoom.
Mike Rollick.
Please, Mr. Rawlick, whenever you're available.
Hi, City Council. Hi, Mayor. My name is Mike Rawlick, and as you know, I live outside of the Arvada city limits, but I speak on behalf of Ralston Valley Coalition tonight. 18735 West 59 Drive, Golden, Colorado, 80403. Yes, I echo Mike Schweitzer's dismay that we're getting rid of the online option. It's a very nice way to talk like tonight. For instance, I've been sick, my girlfriend's sick, and then I also found out that it's at a friend's house and he contracted COVID on Saturday. So there are situations like that where it's more responsible to stay home, but you might want to be able to talk to City Council. There are people with all forms of disability, whether they might not be able to drive, might have anxiety to be in public and what have you. They'll lose their voice now. Technology has made it such that people from all walks of life can opine, can talk to their own government and what have you. And just coming from the heart, this technology is easy. It's Zoom. You know, our Zoom account is $13 a month. It's easy to be able to mute somebody. It's easy to be able to choose somebody, you know, to come on. So I don't know, the infrastructure costs don't seem to merit the exclusion of those who can't make it. We've heard from people who are shift workers or single parents as well. About 3 weeks ago when we were on this very meeting, there was a guy who did call in because his daughter was at a swim practice and he couldn't be here for an unrelated topic. But, you know, from the richest of comments that you've heard tonight and from other times I've been at city council meetings, it'd be a shame to lose those if someone couldn't show up to the meeting. We have been very accommodative of that as well. In fact, for the city council candidate forum, we did set up a Zoom or what was it, a FaceTime to make sure all could be heard as well. We just hope that city council can find it to make sure that everyone can be heard for all these kinds of meetings. Today, I was able to speak at the state level on a House bill, and last week as well for county commission, we can do that as well. And it helps when people work odd hours or, like I said, just can't be there. You guys have 35 square miles of land. We obviously know there's traffic issues with growth. So driving to city council and finding a parking spot could be a 30 to 40 minute endeavor each way. Obviously, you guys show up every time, so you understand that. So just want you to be cognizant of that as well as we go forward. The technology is there. This is an increase in the First Amendment because now people can address their government, and now it's gone for maybe a few $1,000s a year. Doesn't seem worth it. There's a lot of diversity of thought and opinion out there, and I hope they all can continue to be heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Rush, do we have anyone else on Zoom? No. Seeing none, I will close the public comment portion of this evening's agenda, and I will move us into new business. We have 2 items on this evening's consent agenda. The first is R25-017, a resolution approving a settlement and easement agreement with Becky, Jean, and Joel Gerald Hassel and granting associated easement. And the second is R25-018, a resolution authorizing the Jefferson County Jail booking area site use agreement. I will open it for council questions or action. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 25 through 017 and all the way through 18.
All right, thank you. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. The consent agenda is passed. Next, we have 3 appointments of city council members to various boards and commissions. I will begin with Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to appoint Councilmember Shauna Ambrose to the Housing Advisory Committee and as an alternate to the Old Town Business Improvement District, or BID.
All right. Council will vote. That passes 7-0. Congratulations, Councilmember Ambrose.
Yeah.
Next, I will call upon Councilmember Ambrose.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to appoint Councilmember Sharon Davis to the Denver Regional Council of Governments and the Jeffco Transportation Action and Advisory Group.
All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Congratulations, Councilmember Davis. And finally, Councilmember Davis.
I move to appoint Councilmember Brad Rupert to the Arvada Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee, Arvada Fire Protection District Coordinating Committee, Jefferson County R1 Schools Coordinating Committee, Smart City Advisory Committee, and an alternate to the Adams County Regional Economic Partnership, Regional Council of Government, Regional Council of Governments, Jeffco Transportation Action and Advisory Group, Jefferson County Community Corrections Board, and West Connection Coalition.
All right, all votes will be cast. It's quite the roster there, Councilmember Rupert.
You're going to be busy.
And that passes 7-0. All right, thank you so much. We have no public hearings this evening, and so I will move us right into our workshop, which is the 2024 Community Survey. I will call upon Communications Director Rachel Kiriwa.
Thank you, Mayor Simpson and members of council. Tonight, I would like to welcome Adam Probolski, President of Probolski Research. Since 2022, Probolski Research has been conducting the annual community survey on behalf of the city of Arvada. And Adam will present the 2024 community survey methodology and key findings.
Welcome, Mr. Probolski.
Thank you, Rachel, Mayor, Council. Really always a pleasure working with staff on this project, and happy to present some of the key findings tonight. I'm going to go first through the methodology. This is a robust survey and very inclusive, giving people a chance to participate on the telephone or online. Telephone where people were able to, we reached out to them or they were able to call in. We also sent out emails and text messages to bring people online. English and Spanish were options, and you had 6% of your residents choose Spanish as an option. We always caution that that doesn't mean that other people don't speak Spanish or that Spanish speakers don't speak English. It's just the preference in their home. Took about 18 minutes to complete, and it was a pretty long time span. You had just about a month to participate in the survey, and 1,480 completes of residents. To give you some perspective, if we were to do a statewide poll in Colorado, we might have 700, 900, 1,000. So having 1,480 in Arvada is very, very significant. And we have that delivers a very low margin of error. The one thing else I'll point out is we take very specific precautions to make sure that people can't participate more than once. And so there's a whole host of things we do there, but this is a fully representative survey of your residents, and I'll show at the end the demographics of what that looks like. Going on to starting our key findings, number one, residents are satisfied in Arvada. Certainly room for some improvement when it comes to trust and responsiveness, the perspective of the residents. So you've got 67% saying they have a good quality of life, they rate it good, and then you also have 61% saying it's a good place to live. You've probably heard me say this before. This is not an academic exercise. We're Americans. We clearly don't agree on anything. So when we do agree on something, it's very impressive. At 50% plus one, it's significant. At 2/3 or at 61%, it's very significant. And then satisfaction with city services are at 64%. We round up. And the first number that I'll point out that isn't one we love to deliver is that there's some mixed, I guess, level of trust when it comes to city government. 38% saying there's high trust and 33% saying low trust. I'll point out that we are bombarded with the expectation that we're supposed to not like government, that we're supposed to feel like government is not doing a good job. If you look at any kind of a national narrative, that's what we're kind of being bombarded with. So you're doing better than other communities, but it's a challenge for government at all levels. So we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves when we see numbers like this. And then there's 2/3 that rate their interaction with city employees as good, as excellent or good. The 45% saying the city is responsive to the priorities of residents, and 52% saying that they are getting their money's worth for tax dollars. And I think, again, this is one where we should give ourselves some space. we shouldn't expect that the residents necessarily have a full picture of how things are funded with local government. And so the fact that you have a majority or greater than majority is a good place to start. And if there's a desire to get any of these numbers up, that might be one of them where it would take significant amount of outreach to kind of explain where the dollars and cents come out when it comes to government funding. Next up, we've got an identification of traffic management and road conditions as we'll call it a significant growth opportunity. This chart, not the most fun to read, but I'll explain that upper right quadrant is really where we'd want to be, because there's satisfaction and then importance. And you can see that the satisfaction doesn't really rise up to the top there, to the top right. You can see things like maintenance of roads and operations for traffic are very important all the way to the right, but not getting that satisfaction level that you might want to have. And then on the bottom there, we have a discussion about the money's worth, and we give some more specific perspective. We already said overall it's 52% feel like they're getting their money's worth. Water and sewer, though, 61%. In the face of the need for increased rates and the fact that you've done it, that's pretty impressive. That these numbers are holding pretty steady from previous years. And you can see trash and recycling, similar numbers to previous years. Also a place where people don't necessarily have the full picture of the cost and the benefits that they might be getting. So again, a chance for outreach if you care to. 71% say they can get where they need to go using their preferred mode of transportation. We gave them some options. And 60% said improving the quality of road pavement would improve their experience. So kind of a theme there that we're seeing. 48% say increasing funding for they'd support increased funding for tax and fees for public works projects and services. This, again, is an opportunity where you're right there on the cusp of having a majority of people saying they're willing to spend more if they can really get a sense of what that's going to deliver. We work with a lot of communities all over the country that are in a place where they're looking to raise revenues, and your numbers should be more in the majority, 50, 60, 70%, somewhere in that range, to a place where you'd want to pursue something like that. So a lot more outreach and communication would be a very positive effort there. And then 76% are confident the city's utility employees can complete the repairs quickly as necessary in the event of a failure. This is one of those things where you want to put up a poster in the break room at the corporate yard, or where people see this, your employees get to understand that the community has confidence in them. This is a really positive number. Another key finding is that residents feel safe living in Arvada, in their neighborhoods, similar to 2023 and similar to other places in the country. So 90% say they feel safe in their neighborhood, 68% feel safe in commercial areas during the day, and then you can see how you compare. Feeling safe nationally is 47%, and 54% feel safe in Colorado. Not exactly apples to apples, you can see where we source that information, but really you have strong numbers compared to the rest of the country. And we have some numbers there in a little chart. Feeling included in the community, we gave them a rating scale of 1 to 10. Average is 6.1%. A sense of community from their neighborhood, average is 6.6%. 7% we round up. The fact that the city delivers services in a fair and equitable way, 77% believe that you do that. 89% say they're not experiencing any barriers accessing government when it comes to facilities or services or information. It's a really strong number, 89%. We call that kind of puppies and kittens territory, where you're not going to get much beyond that. Whereas some of the other numbers you might move, we're probably not going to see that at 100% ever, but it's a very strong number. And the fact that they're confident in the justice system in Arvada is almost 2/3, 66%.
Mr. Problowski, quickly.
Please.
Councilmember Davis.
Please.
Thank you. And thank you for this report. This is great. I just had a couple of questions. So on the first slide, the second slide, where we are talking about findings and if residents are satisfied living in Arvada, can we have those numbers compared to the last survey, or maybe the last couple of surveys? Because I'm interested in noting how these numbers are modulating across the years, so I think that would be interesting data for me. And then for the traffic management, so it says 71% of folks can get where they need to go using their preferred mode of travel. Did we ask what their preferred modes of travel were by vehicle, bicycle, or foot?
Yeah, I think we had those options in there, so.
Okay, because that would be very interesting to know if people are getting around mostly in motor vehicles rather than bicycles, and then wondering why that is. So that's really interesting. Were the questions that were asked in this go-round, were they the same as the past go-rounds?
Largely, yes. There were some new things we might have tested, but largely the questions stayed static, so you could do those comparisons.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
And I'll just point out for council members' information and for everyone, there is a lot of reporting behind these slides, hundreds and hundreds of pages actually, including cross-tabulated data, including tracking data. I think for the purposes of this presentation, we wanted to keep it somewhat condensed, but staff has that data, and we are ultimately available for one-on-one briefings or in whatever capacity through staff the council would prefer. We're certainly available for any of that sort of thing. All right, so we are now at homelessness and affordable housing, salient issues for the residents. 21% are satisfied with the city's efforts to address homelessness. That is a grand opportunity for improvement if that's a desire or a policy decision by the council. And 25% are satisfied with the progress of improving access to affordable housing. A challenge for any government agency because not totally within your control, but two numbers that I think stand out that are significant delta between people who are happy and people who are not. And then you can kind of see there at the bottom what stands out among those who support raising local taxes to improve services. What are they looking for? What would they do with those resources? Right there at the top in the low 60s is addressing homelessness. And just after that, improving street maintenance, which we've seen before. And it kind of cascades down beyond that. But those two at the top are thematic things that we see throughout the data. If you see in the bottom right, there's a question about supporting raising local taxes to pay for the things that we've talked about. And you can see this number right here where 41% say they support. This is separate than the question about fees, but this is 41% support, 52% a small majority oppose. So again, if there's a desire to move towards raising revenues, something we do in a lot of communities, there would be a need to a lot of communication and outreach in order to educate people on what it is your budget looks like and how you would address these things with more revenues. Next up, we've got a theme number 5. Residents are satisfied with the parks and and the climate action. There's a really strong belief that your parks and open space are in good stead and that it's a priority for you. You can see there 61% essentially are believing you're doing a great job with the maintenance of open space and trail conditions. And those other ones really not dissatisfaction. It's just people are largely happy with your addressing recreation in the city. Waste diversion. What are residents doing from a sustainability standpoint? 49% say they're diverting as much waste as they can from a composting or recycling standpoint. People say they're taking fewer car trips. And 26% say they are switching from electric to, switching to electric for lawn tools. You see at the top there on the right, importance to their quality of life. trails, open space, parks. So 93% say that those things are important to their quality of life. The fact that you're doing a good job and they're satisfied with those things really kind of connects. They're happy with those things. 74% they're satisfied with the specific maintenance of your parks and trails and open space. And 63% say they support converting turf grass to native grasses. Something we've tracked, I think, for a couple of years now. Next up is your demographics, and this is Arvada. I think you probably know this, but it's a good thing to maybe see it all in one place. I'll point out you are better colleged than almost any other community that we survey. It's a highly educated community. You definitely have older, longer-standing community members, but it's pretty diverse when it comes to age. Not everyone is in that higher category, those higher categories. A lot of home ownership in this community, and as I pointed out, a big plurality who say they've been here for more than 20 years. Pretty diverse income basis in the community, and the numbers were spread out all throughout the community through the council districts. So this is your residence. I know that's a lot of data. I know I said that there's hundreds of pages behind this that are accessible to you, and we're able to answer questions about, but I'm happy to address anything else tonight.
Mayor Pro Tem Moorman.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. Going back to the demographics, I have a question there. So, and I noticed this on last year's survey as well. So this is the breakdown of participants in the survey.
Correct.
And what's striking to me is the years of residency and how almost half of our respondents of the survey are 20-plus year residents. How does that compare to our actual demographics in our city?
So these numbers broadly track census data. And what we have available to us in census data is most of the things like gender, ethnicity, age group, things like that. I don't know that we have the timeline of residency totally available. And you may have some different data internally, but when anything we're able to track to census, we did. And so I think based on that, you should have confidence that this data fully reflects your residents because all the other data is relevant to census data.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Yeah, I just, maybe it's more for Rachel, but I think year over year, if we can see what that looks like on some of these topics. I know Sharon did bring that up, and I think it's a good scorecard for us as a council if we're in the right trajectory, or are we failing, are we improving? Because I think some of these scores are a lot lower than the past.
The information that I provided you in the council memo a few weeks ago, there's 2 documents. The presentation on results, which is 150 pages, has that.
It does? Okay.
Year over year. And then there's a full results report, and that's over 1,000 pages.
Yeah, I'm not reading that.
Don't read that.
The 150 I wouldn't read either, just so you know.
We also have them on the website, on our community survey page for the community to look at. So I would encourage you to look at that, the presentation.
The 150-page one?
150 pages, and it has where we can, it has 3 years of comparison.
Could we maybe put that as a slide moving forward? Year over year?
Yeah.
Absolutely, of course. And we can also give you what you're looking for in less than 150 pages. So after this, I'll work with staff, I'll work with Rachel to find a way to make that easier to present.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Marriott.
Yeah, I had a question. So I did look at the whole report, and while I didn't go read all 1,500 pages, one of the more interesting aspects of it was the comments that people could leave. And so I read a bunch of those, lots of pages of those, and was surprised this time around at how many of the comments contained negative comments about the city council and about various elected officials and stuff like that. Do you guys go through and try to classify those comments into puddles or something like that to get some kind of data off those, or is each one of those just an anecdotal thing? And I've done this before in previous years where I've read the comments or scrolled through the comments. Obviously, there's many, many pages of them, so it's difficult to read them all. But I would be interested to see how that changed, because frankly, I was very surprised reading it this time. The people who took the time to fill out, sentences in a comment box of their own words, how negative those were, seemed much more negative than in the past.
Yeah. So first on, if you do look at that, the 150-page slide deck, slide number 2 has a categorization of those open ends. So it is, and I just pulled it up, it's 10%, had some sort of specific commentary about government, corruption, council, things like that. I go back to my earlier comment, and I'm not making political commentary here, I'm just saying that there is this broad national narrative that we see that has really brought down the reputation and trust in local government precipitously, and it's happened over the last 8 years or so, and so it's a challenge that local government faces. Just going back to the beginning of what you said, anywhere that we had an opportunity for people to say why or offer something, as Councilmember Marriott explained, we certainly categorize it, but we put those exact comments, we don't filter anything out, in the report, and we overlay age, gender, geography, council district, all those different things, so as you read that person's comments, you can kind of understand their experience within the community. So I do, we kind of call that bedtime reading, but we definitely encourage the reading of that. We do caution, though, when you read something that's very negative or something very positive, it doesn't represent the whole. These charts really have a much more broader perspective for you. But of course, you read one comment and it can be, a punch in the gut, and there's a few of those.
Councilmember Rupert.
Thank you. I want to echo the comments about the trending information and comparison information. That's useful to have, and it's useful, I think, frankly, for the public to see as well. I was reflecting on page 5's information, and it's a question that talks about among those who were interested in supporting a tax increase for their priorities, it gives us what those areas would be, and I want to make sure that I'm combining our data properly, but if only 41% are in support, and then we're looking at 63 or 51, that's of the 41%. So we're looking at a fairly narrow population when we're asking for those priorities. So those are not a random or representative sample of the entire population. It's a subset of the 41%.
Correct, and in the broader reporting, it will notate that this is among a certain specific group. So you'll be able to see that in a much more specific way. Again, we tried to keep this kind of interesting, fun, and short.
Right. So in a lot of those, we're talking about half of half.
Yeah, in a lot of cases,
of our population.
Certainly, in a lot of cases, in the full report, in the report on results and the presentation, you'll see kind of, yes, and we typically will put a pie chart and pull out the pie piece to show you this is that group, and it could be 3%, right? In some of those, it could be 20%, and then you get you can judge for yourself how to relate to that data.
I have a quick request as well. In addition to the data that we have year over year, and that request, which I wholeheartedly support from Council Members Davis and Pfeiffer, I would also be interested in seeing what our regional community, I don't want to call out any other cities by name, that would not be appropriate, but just what is the temperature check on our surrounding area as well, and how does Arvada compare apples to apples? We've spoken a couple of times about the national narrative, which I certainly do think has been contributory. I think everybody up here has sort of just anecdotally ourselves felt a temperature change over the past many months. I know I certainly have. And so but like I said, I would be curious how it fits more hyper-locally within the Denver metropolitan area, just to see where we're standing within it.
Absolutely. We have done that in the past. We have called out other cities in that chart. We can certainly modify that going forward, but we'll work with staff, and we've had that before, where we look at different metrics and show where you are, and we'll just identify what communities. Colorado, in some world, is much more polled and surveyed than any other state. So we pretty much have this data for every single city and town in Colorado. So we can choose the ones we want to do comparisons to and provide that data.
That would be great. Thank you very much. And then in addition, trying to think what else would be helpful. I guess in terms of those written comments, I know people view it as an opportunity to perhaps, let us know what they think, so to speak. And those are always appreciated. You're absolutely right. But I'm also curious if there's sort of a temperature trend on different ideas. I want you to solve this, and this is the way it could be solved. Where are the positive, the helpful that people are submitting forward? And is there potentially a thread line within those? Because I would be very curious as to what that would be. Bless you, Councilmember Marriott.
Yeah, and we do a greater analysis, kind of a qualitative analysis of that. I don't know if that necessarily made it into this year's report, so we will take the next step of developing that further and delivering that to staff. So you can, in addition to seeing it in a chart form, in addition to reading through it, maybe have some more of a qualitative reporting on that, so you can understand those trends and have some perspective. So we'll make sure we include that soon.
Okay, great. And then I guess my final question, and this would be more of a methodology question. And, we've seen the news about polling nationally and how they're always very off. I'm not going to go into any of that. But I'm curious, as an expert, how do you differentiate the folks who are just, oh, hey, they sent me a text, sure, I'll respond to the community survey, versus those who are, I'm angry about X thing, and I'm going to go take them and let them know exactly what I think. Because just as we all know up here, folks, when everything's good, they tend not to know who their city council members are. The only time they find us is when they're mad about something, right. 99% of the time. So how do you, with your methodology, sort of filter that out to keep it more even and give us the accurate data?
So first, we make sure nobody can take the survey more than once, or largely more than once. Multiple people in a household could, the husband and wife or partners. Adult children could, but for the most part, we make sure that's not a problem, so we don't allow anybody's voice to be outsized. And then through the process of a couple things, making sure that we reach out in all kinds of ways, including the Arvada report, which is very influential in bringing respondents, and the key factor is making sure it represents the demographics of the city. So there's no chance for young people or old people to have an outsized voice. It's really respective to the census data, and similar, no one gender can have an outsized voice and no one income group can. So it really ensures that it fully represents your community. That's the biggest tool we have in this process. And I'm happy to address national polling if you want.
Oh, I don't think we should open that particular can of worms. Are there any additional questions from the council or questions or thoughts? Seeing none, thank you so much for being here with us this evening. We genuinely appreciate your time and expertise.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, with that, I will open the second public comment for this time. This is the 5-minute limit. Is there anyone in chambers this evening that would like to present on the 5-minute limit? Seeing none, Ms. Rush, is there anybody on Zoom? Seeing none, I will close public comment, open it to reports from City Council. Councilmember Davis.
Yes, I had an opportunity to work with Councilmember Mormon, and we did the point-in-time homelessness counting, and it was eye-opening. We had a really great hostess who took us around, and we learned a lot, and I would like to thank her. Second, I was a guest at the Arvada West High School Voices of Color Club, and it was really nice to see these wonderful young leaders in our community. And I always say this when I go to the schools and work with these folks, our future is safe. It's not bleak. It actually looks pretty shiny. So I just want you to take that back into your hearts and know that our future here in America and in our community, we're doing very well. So thank you so much.
Indeed we are. Councilmember Ambrose.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, again, that on February 28th from noon to 3 at the Heaven Creamery in Old Town, that I'll be having open office hours on city council, so if anybody wants to come by, I think last time I just said Heaven, but I actually mean the creamery, not like metaphysical heaven. I will not meet you in heaven metaphysically. I will meet you at the Heaven Creamery in Old Town on the 28th between 12 to noon. I mean, noon to 4.
Right. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, City Council. We do have another business meeting next week, and we will have another workshop within that business meeting. We'll be talking to you about short-term rentals. Thank you.
Ms. Morris?
Nothing from me, Your Honor.
All right, we stand adjourned.